There is a disease spreading in the e-commerce ecosystem, and it's what I call the Klaviyo brain box. If you come across somebody who has these symptoms, be very careful because they might just destroy your business. In all seriousness, I'm going to have a bit of a rant this week. And this comes from a good place because, quite frankly, I think Klaviyo has been a tremendous force for good in the D2C ecosystem. And we have to remember that this is still a quite young and maturing industry. I mean, e-commerce has only really surged in popularity the last 10, 20 years, let's say. And I mean, I remember when I first got into things when I was 18 years old, which was half my life ago at this point, everything was custom coded from the ground up. So it's still a new industry. Even for me, I'm learning things all the time. However, there is a big problem going on at the moment. And I say this as someone who has been back in the trenches in the ecosystem this year, working in client work, getting my hands dirty again, and critically on the hiring front as we try and scale Magnet Monster back up. And it's obvious at the moment there is a huge issue with talent either not being available or people demanding, in my opinion, ridiculous salaries in comparison to the skill sets, which is fascinating. And I'm going to go a little bit into that today. Now, this Klaviyo brain box disease, let me give you a few examples of what I'm seeing and why this is a massive issue. We have a generation or a slew of marketers who have never had any exposure to any part of an e-commerce business beyond the confines of Klaviyo as a software or as a channel. They haven't even worked outside of Klaviyo on different ESPs. And this is a massive problem, and I'll explain why. Because the conditioning is so entrenched with optimizing Klaviyo performance that it's to the detriment of the brand itself. I'll show you some examples that I've dealt with this week when I've been hiring. I'm not going to tell you the exact processes that we've been using, but it's an excellent filter to test people's ability to think critically about things and know whether, quite frankly, you're hiring a dud. So I've been speaking to a lot of people and I've been trying to dig deep to see how they think about things. And there's a couple of things you can immediately do to suss out whether someone actually knows what they're talking about. Number one, pull up a graph or any type of analytics chart showing new versus returning customer revenue. This is something when I audit a brand, I always look at just to get a general pulse check on how healthy the client's business is. Obviously, there's a lot of things you need to take into account with this, but it's a good starting point for some of what we offer as a service provider. I've been showing this to interview candidates this week, and people are just paralyzed and just asking them what they think about a business, a hypothetical case showing that the returning customer revenue is high, but the new customer acquisition is going down year over year, and just asking people what they think is going on with the business. So many people have not even knew where to start. They have specifically requested to look inside of Klaviyo when I've shown them this graph so they can get more context. Why do you need to look inside of Klaviyo when you're showing someone high-level analytics and KPIs pertinent to the overall business performance? So it shows how bad that mindset is or how conditioned they are to stick to that channel because that's where they're comfortable and they're not able to step outside it. That's not true expertise or mastery. That's actually very amateurish, and it shows just the huge gap needed to provide value to brands, really. Because if you're just optimizing the channel, then you're doing it for your own ego. You're not doing it for the brand's best interests. Second question you can ask is just show someone a pop-up and where the coupon code, the success page, where it should show the coupon code. So many people have told me to take that coupon code off the success page and send it via email, and encourage me to take the customer off the website and go into the email to claim the coupon code. And when I've asked why, the justification is this helps with deliverability. And when I say what's more important, deliverability or on-site conversion, you're just met with blank stares. Because people are so desperate to obviously get the attribution from the welcome flow. They're not actually thinking about what's best for the brands. They're just thinking about what's best for them to demonstrate their value. So you have to lose the ego and show some humility. But I don't think it's coming from a bad place. I genuinely believe people think they should be doing this, which again is a huge problem because people have never worked outside of this singular lane. And lastly, the obvious one, I know it's such a platitude at this point and we've all heard it, but just ask someone how much revenue should be driven via Klaviyo. You will see people continuously push this figure and brag more and more on how they've driven, upwards of 70, 80% of revenue from Klaviyo to a client before. I actually just looked at a prospect's business today and did a big diagnosis of what's going on. And they wanted me to pitch to them, but they already had 75% of revenue coming from Klaviyo, or let's say owned media channels. And I told them this is a massive problem with their business, which they already knew. And I told them that they shouldn't pay for us and they needed to fix their acquisition issues. So if you're wearing this like a badge of honor, or you're getting a generic soundbite that should be 30%, 40%, 50% back from the candidates without any context as to why, then it's just another indication of this Klaviyo brain box disease that's plaguing them and stopping their ability to think. So this is a huge problem. And I don't know what the solution is because, as I said, we have a generation of people who have trained on one channel, one software, and they've never been encouraged to look outside of the confines of that box. And as a result, they've got very single lane thinking. Even people I've worked with several years of experience have not been true experts whatsoever. They've just been good technicians inside Klaviyo, which is very frustrating to see, but I suppose that happens in every industry. So what is the solution? I've got a few ideas, so whether people will take me up and listen to them and apply them, I mean, that's not my business. But I think reading the book, How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp, that is a phenomenal starting point that will humble you, make you think in scientific, mathematical terms, how advertising actually works, how brands get market share, how they actually grow profitably and sustainably. That will give you a lot of hard truths. Learn how to read a cohort table. it will show you so much in e-commerce. Just learn how to read one. Very basic concepts like lifetime value, acquisition cost, and repurchase rates. Just very basic, rudimentary things. I think that's the next evolution. You have someone who is showing an interest in email or own channels, and then they progress to start looking at cohorts. It shows that they're trying to learn a bit more about business performance and how the mechanics of the channels they optimize are tying into business outcomes. So generally, I like to progress people that way, is reading that book that I just mentioned. That's critical. And then just learning some of the tactical things that you're doing, how they're actually impacting the business and how it's tied into cohorts, more serious metrics and KPIs that businesses are actually looking at. And then sit alongside growth and acquisition teams and speak to them and learn how these are actually ran and how they actually move the needle for brands. Stop competing against them. Stop thinking you need to prove your worth or be better than them. It's just ridiculous. You're harming yourself. You need these people to be successful. So sit alongside them, learn from them, learn how that impacts growth and how a lot of the work that you do is downstream and the beneficiary of what they're actually doing. These are the most important things. And if you can do that, I mean, the sky is the limit for the salary you can demand, because I can tell you, based on what I've seen, people have had a very high sense of inflated self-worth based on a lack of knowledge. I don't mean that in a attacking way. Not trying to put anyone down, but it's a big issue, and I think it's just an opportunity for everyone who wants to level up to do those basic things. It will put you ahead of 99% of people who are not showing any interest in this because they're just locked into that single zone of thinking. Anyway, that's it. It's a rant, just a quick one that came to my head whilst going through things in the last week. Try to work on those things. Peace.